Incredible Maid's 30-second decision saves stranger's life. Discover the heartwarming moment. Maria wiped the sweat from her brow as she stepped outside, the sun warm on her face. She leaned against the worn wooden railing of the motel's stairs, grappling with her exhaustion. Tired as she was, her mind buzzed with hopes for her young son. Maybe one day, she'd escape the endless cycle of scrubbing rooms and emptying trash bins. But for now she was simply a maid, invisible to the affluent tourists who passed through, glancing down their noses at her humble existence. But then everything changed. It was like a scene straight out of a movie. A shrill scream cut through the air, freezing Maria's heart. Her eyes darted toward the street where she spotted Mr. Thompson, a kind, elderly man from the neighborhood. He stood rigid, clutching his chest, his face a ghostly shade of gray. Panic filled his eyes and Maria's heart raced. Time seemed to stretch out, each second an agonizing eternity. In that moment, she thought about her son's smiles, his little fingers wrapping around hers, trusting her to keep him safe. Could she really just stand there while a man fought for breath? With a determined breath she surged forward. "Help is on the way," she shouted, though her voice trembled. At his side, she recalled the CPR lessons she'd learned a few years back when her husband fell ill. It felt like a lifetime ago, but the memories flooded back. She knelt in front of him, her hands steady. Each pump of her hands against his chest was a plea for life. "Come on, Mr. Thompson, you can do this." The world around them faded away, and with every second, she poured all her heart into saving this stranger. Her palms pressed against his chest, her fear mixing with fervor. In those agonizing moments, the sound of sirens in the distance evaporated, leaving only the rhythm of hope. Push, breathe, push. Then, as if a miracle had unfolded, he gasped. Relief washed over her like cool water on a hot summer day. Around them, a small crowd held its breath, and then erupted into cheers. As Mr. Thompson's color returned, so did the spark of community. She was no longer just the maid. She was a beacon of hope. But as the crowd celebrated, Maria felt the weight of their glances. She saw the shift in their perceptions as they began to understand the depth to her character. Was she worthy now? Was she more than just the invisible worker they hurried past every day? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the applause faded, Maria's heart raced. Mr. Thompson's life-saving moment had ignited a discussion that reverberated through the town. Was this act of kindness a wake-up call for everyone watching? Would it challenge the unspoken barriers between their lives? Among the whispers of gratitude, one of the townsfolk stepped forward, an invitation extending to an upcoming community celebration, a chance for her to share her story. But with that flicker of hope came a shroud of anxiety. Could this attention be a double-edged sword? As Maria stood there, surrounded by a growing crowd, she could feel the weight of their collective eyes, searching, judging. Had she just placed a foot into a world that could both uplift and cast her aside? As doubts loomed, the air crackled with unresolved tension. What next? Would this moment change everything? Or would the whispers of prejudice come creeping back, shattering the fragile connection she had formed? Only time would tell, and Maria's heart raced as she awaited the next chapter of her life. As the crowd began to thin, Maria found herself standing alone, the warmth of their praise fading into the lingering questions in her mind. Her heart still raced from the adrenaline and the unexpected sense of purpose that now coursed through her veins. She could still hear Mr. Thompson's shaky breaths, the sound of life rekindled. The invitation to share her story weighed heavily on her. She had never dreamed of speaking in front of a crowd, let alone being the center of attention. What if they were only applauding her today, but were still blind to her everyday struggles? Would they remember her as a hero, or simply as the maid they'd overlooked until the moment she acted? "Maria, are you okay?" A voice broke through her thoughts. It was Lucy, a fellow maid who worked part-time at the motel. Her usually bright smile was tinged with concern. "Just processing everything," Maria replied, forcing a smile. "It's a lot to take in." Lucy nodded, her eyes wide with admiration. You saved him. I saw the way you didn't hesitate. You're incredible. Those words "you're incredible" sank into Maria's chest, igniting a flicker of hope. A small community meeting could be an opportunity to connect, to share her truth, and perhaps even inspire others. But what if it backfired? What if she was ridiculed or worse, labeled just another face in the crowd? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting it in hues of orange and pink, Maria took a deep breath. You know what, Lucy? Maybe it's time someone tells the story of how hard we work. No one ever sees that. Lucy beamed. Absolutely. You should definitely do it. People need to hear about the sacrifices you make for your son, and for the rest of us. Maria felt her heart flutter. Could her story resonate with others? Did they want to hear about a maid's struggles? Or just about the heroic acts? She pondered the faces of those who came to witness Mr. Thompson's revival. Could she show them her true self? That night, alone in her small room, she closed her eyes. Images of her son's laughter filled her thoughts, reminding her why she fought so hard every day. All she wanted was a better life for him. A life full of joy and opportunities. A knock on the door pulled her from her reverie. It was Tommy, her son, with bright eyes and a mischievous smile. Mama, can we make cookies? His request pulled at her heartstrings, grounding her amidst the whirlwind of emotions. Of course, mi amor, she replied, her voice steady. Together they moved into the tiny kitchen, laughter curling around them like the sweet scent of baking cookies. As she watched Tommy stir the batter, a thought crystallized in her mind. If she was going to share her story, she would do it for him. The night deepened, shadows dancing in the corners as they baked and made a mess, the sweetness of their time together filling the air. But as she put the cookies in the oven, another thought struck her. The community celebration wasn't just about her. It was a chance for every overlooked soul in their town to have their voice amplified too. How many others had stories that needed telling? Her resolve began to solidify. Tomorrow I'll go, she whispered to herself. I'll share my story. No more hiding. But as she locked the door to her room that night, a sudden chill brushed over her. What if her truth fell on deaf ears? What if she lost the small sense of worth she had just found? As she climbed into bed, staring up at the ceiling, uncertainty gnawed at her, a chaotic blend of excitement and dread. Tomorrow held great promise but also the potential for heartache. Still, she had to try. A change was on the horizon, and Maria was prepared to face it, come what may. What she didn't expect, though, was to find an unexpected ally in an unlikely place. Morning arrived, pulling Maria from her restless sleep. Sunlight filtered in through the thin curtains, casting warm patterns on the walls. She rubbed her eyes, feeling the heaviness of the day ahead press down on her. Today was not just another day of cleaning and cooking. It was a day where her voice might finally be heard. As she prepared breakfast, her hands moved on autopilot. The smell of frying eggs filled the small kitchen, but her mind was already racing ahead. What to say? How to start? The rhythm of her usual routine felt disrupted, like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to jump but unsure of what awaited her below. Breakfast is ready, she called, her voice ringing through the modest space. Tommy came bounding in, hair tousled, eyes bright with curiosity. Can we add chocolate chips to the pancakes? He suggested, his excitement contagious. Maria smiled, the weight of her worries momentarily lifted. Absolutely. You lead the way today. As they cooked together, the batter flew and laughter bubbled over. Maria felt lighter, reminded of the simple joy in their little world. Yet as she flipped pancakes, uncertainty crept back in. Would she be able to capture the attention of the crowd? Could she touch their hearts as she had touched Mr. Thompson's? Are you nervous, Mama? Tommy asked, noticing the furrow in her brow. A little, she admitted, glancing at him. But I think it's good to be a bit nervous. It means something important is happening. After breakfast, she dressed and looked in the mirror, brushing a stray hair behind her ear. Who was she to stand in front of everyone? Just a maid, a woman with too many burdens and too few moments to shine. But then her gaze landed on a photograph of Tommy taped to the mirror. His smile pushed her forward. For you, she whispered, stepping into the day. The community center buzzed with life when she arrived. A cluster of people mingled near the entrance, laughter bouncing off the walls. Maria's stomach churned. Lucy spotted her and waved, signaling for her to join the group. As Maria walked toward her, she noticed a familiar face among the crowd. It was Mr. Thompson. The sight of him alive and well fueled her courage. Maybe today wasn't just about her story. Maybe it was about them all, every person who felt unheard. "Mama, can I go see Mr. Thompson?" Tommy asked, tugging at her sleeve. His innocence shone brightly, a reminder that their lives intertwined with others. "Of course," she said softly, sending him off with a gentle push. While Tommy approached Mr. Thompson, Maria took a deep breath, observing the people chatting and laughing. Each face was a story, a collection of dreams and struggles. Suddenly, a gentle tap on her shoulder jolted her from her thoughts. "Hey there." It was a woman she hadn't met before, but there was kindness in her eyes. "I heard what happened with Mr. Thompson. It's amazing. Thank you for sharing. It makes me wonder what else we don't see around us." Those words hit Maria hard. They opened up less about her anxiety and more about the voices that waited to be heard. "I want to share my story today," Maria replied, uncertainty drifting away, replaced by a steady resolve. But the woman held her gaze, eyes sparkling with insight. "You should. We all need to hear it. And remember, you're not alone." As the announcement for the meeting began, Maria's heartbeat thundered in her chest. It was time to step into the spotlight, to peel back the layers of who she was and what she represented. Taking one last deep breath, she approached the microphone. The crowd quieted and every gaze turned to her. "Hello everyone," her voice echoed through the room, steadier than she felt. "I am Maria, and I'm here to tell you about the invisible lives that surround us." And just like that, the journey began. But what she didn't know was that her words would bring forth more than her own truth, stirring hidden stories from unlikely beings. Would they stand alongside her or remain hidden in the shadows? Maria's voice wavered at first, but as she spoke, it began to find its strength. She told her story of resilience, of moments that hardly anyone observed, the ways she fought to give Tommy a better life, and the sacrifices made behind closed doors. With each word, the room felt smaller, yet more intimate, as if they were all connected in an unseen web of experience. She finished her introductory thoughts. She glanced over at Tommy, who was bouncing on his feet, his tiny hands clenched with excitement. Mr. Thompson's encouragement was still fresh in her mind, urging her not only to speak but to inspire. "And that's why I believe we need to share our struggles," Maria continued, her voice steadying. "We need to be heard. I am more than my job as a maid. I am a mother, a neighbor, a friend. There's a story in every one of us, waiting for the chance to be told." A hush settled over the crowd as she spoke, but it wasn't an absence of sound. It was a gathering of breath, a collective taking in of her words. She could see nods of understanding, faces lighting up as they connected with the feelings she expressed. Maria felt the energy shift. Her heart swelled with hope spilling over the edges, pushing her to go deeper. "But it's not just my voice you need to hear," she urged. "I know I'm not the only one who feels invisible. I feel it every day. The weight of the world can feel so heavy and lonely, but together, we can find strength in our differences and our struggles." A voice from the crowd broke through, a middle-aged man in a blue cap. "You're right. I've lost my job and don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. I feel like nobody cares." "Yes," Maria exclaimed, her heart racing. "That's exactly what I mean. Sharing our stories means helping each other. You matter, your struggle matters, and together we can create change." A ripple of murmurs coursed through the room. People shifted, leaning in closer, suddenly engaged. Maria's words were acting like a bridge, pulling them together, one story at a time. Each revelation sparked a connection, like a fuse being lit. She spotted Lucy in the audience, tears glistening in her eyes. The kindness of those connections was tangible, transforming the air around them. She had started this journey thinking she would only tell her own story, but now it felt like a dialogue, a gathering of hearts ready to bear their burdens. "Thank you for sharing that," a voice cried out, belonging to a woman with fire in her eyes. "It makes me want to tell my own story about my struggle as a single mom. I felt so isolated." Tommy, watching the change unfold, turned back to her, confidence shining from his small frame. "You're doing it, Mama," he cheered, clapping his hands, encouraging applause from others as the crowd erupted in supportive applause. Maria felt a warm flush of triumph. She had turned her fears into a movement, uniting voices in strength and vulnerability. The journey began with her story, but now they were on the cusp of something bigger, a community awakening. Yet, as the meeting progressed, Maria realized there was still more to be uncovered, more people eager to share. And deep within her stirred a thought, a nagging question. What would happen when her own struggles circled back, and her truth collided with the realities of those she just inspired? The evening continued, filled with eager voices and open hearts. But as Maria stepped aside, she sensed she was standing at the door of a revelation. Little did she know, one of those revelations would soon change everything. Maria stepped back, the applause still echoing in her ears. She scanned the crowd, their faces alive with emotion, hope sparking in the eyes of the weary and energized expressions of those finally feeling seen. They were all engaged in something bigger than themselves, and she reveled in that connection. Yet, amid that warmth, a familiar chill crept into her gut. It was the gnawing worry that washed over her, threatening to drown out the joy. The crowd buzzed with conversation. Her gaze flitted back to Tommy, who was now happily engaged with a small group of children, trading giggles and wild stories. Just watching him filled her with pride but also a pang of anxiety. She was still just a maid, and even as she stood there inspiring others, the question loomed larger than ever: what if they knew the real Maria? Suddenly, a small voice broke through her thoughts. "Mama, look," Tommy called, pointing at a man wearing a faded blue jacket who was approaching her. He looked fragile, weathered by life, and yet he moved closer with purpose. "Excuse me," the man said, his voice shaky. "I just wanted to thank you for what you said out there. I haven't felt that kind of hope in a long time." He nodded appreciatively, his eyes glistening. "I lost my wife last year and I've been trying to get by. Your words, they made me feel like I'm not alone." Maria felt something tug at her heart. She reached out and rested a hand on his arm. "You're not alone." "Not anymore," she said softly, her voice raspy with emotion. Before she could say more, a sudden commotion erupted at the far end of the room. A woman shrieked and gasps filled the air. Maria turned just in time to see a man collapse, crashing to the floor amidst dropping bags and scattering papers. A heavy thud echoed through the room, and an uneasy silence blanketed the gathering. Tommy's laughter faded, his eyes wide with confusion. Maria's breath hitched. She recognized him. He was the friendly neighbor who always waved to her on her way to work. She sprinted toward him, pushing through the crowd, her heart hammering in her chest. "Is he okay?" someone asked, panic rising. Maria reached the fallen man and dropped to her knees, her hand instinctively checking for his pulse. It felt faint and unsteady. "Someone call 911. She shouted, her mind racing. She kneeled further, tilting his head back and beginning to perform CPR. A skill learned from years of watching health videos but never actually practiced. "Breathe," she urged, feeling desperate, her voice trembling. "You have to breathe." The crowd formed a circle around her, keeping a respectful distance. She felt their eyes on her, every heartbeat of tension surrounding them like a thick fog. Suddenly, a woman stepped forward, courage sparkling in her eyes. "I know CPR too. What do we do?" Maria looked up at her, relief flooding her. "Let us work together." On 3 they counted as one, shifting rhythm, pumping life back into his chest. Around them a hum of urgency flowed, gathering energy from their unity as they fought for his life. Maria realized it wasn't just about her story anymore. It was about the stories of every person in that room, the lives that intertwined like threads, forming a vibrant tapestry of resilience. What if all their stories connected in unexpected ways? In that moment she knew, whether she was just a maid or something more, they were all part of a larger narrative. And she was ready to discover how deep that connection could run. Little did she know, the aftermath would bring forth unimaginable trials, one that would test not only her new community, but the very core of what it meant to be alive, and the price of keeping hope alive in the darkest of times. The weight of silence hung in the air as they worked frantically. With each compression, Maria poured every ounce of hope into the rhythm of her hands. Time felt distorted. Each second stretched out like an eternity. The gaze of the onlookers, once charged with fear, shifted to a collective hope, a whisper of determination coursing through the crowd like a thread of electricity. Come on," Maria urged, desperately willing him to breathe. Every shared look among the crowd felt charged, A promise that they were all in this together. Each face reflected the raw universality of fear and hope, of life hanging by a thread. The paramedics arrived, bursting into the room like a gust of fresh air. They took over, each member fluidly slipping into their roles, the calm in the storm of panic. Maria stepped back, chest heaving, her heart still racing as she watched them revive him. She caught Tommy's eye across the room. His small hands were clenched tightly around a toy, wide-eyed and brimming with worry. "Is he going to be okay, Mama?" Tommy asked, his voice a sweet mix of innocence and fear. Maria knelt beside him, brushing his hair back, and forced a reassuring smile. "He's in good hands, sweetheart. Just like we're all in this together now." The crowd began to chatter again, voices rising with uncertainty and speculation. Maria couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this was only the beginning. Life had pulled back its curtain, revealing a vulnerability she hadn't noticed before, fragile, yet fiercely united. The paramedics worked quickly, their trained professionalism ushering the man to safety. As they wheeled him out of the room, a fragile piece of hope flickered within Maria. "He's going to make it," she whispered to herself, a silent promise that seeped from her heart to fill the spaces around her. Slowly, the crowd began to disperse, their faces still alight with an odd mixture of relief and shock. They shared knowing glances and quiet words, their humanity drawn closer together through the shared experience. Maria took a deep breath, her heart still racing. But now she felt something different. It wasn't just anxiety that wrapped its fingers around her. It was a nascent courage, unearthing itself within her. After all, she had just witnessed the powerful impact of community, a living testament to strength when faced with unimaginable moments. As the last few audience members trickled out, the woman who had stepped forward earlier approached Maria again, her brow still knit with concern. "Thank you for taking charge," she said, her voice steady. "You didn't hesitate for a second. You saved his life." "No," Maria protested weakly, her humility seeping through. "We all did this together. But you were the one who brought us together." There was conviction in the woman's eyes, a spark lighting a path for Maria. "What you set out there, it ignited something in everyone. You have a gift." Maria felt warmth bloom in her chest, touched by the unfamiliar compliment. "I'm just a maid," she said, but the words felt different now. "Just a maid?" The woman echoed softly, studying Maria's eyes. "No, you're so much more than that." As they spoke, Maria felt the weight of the room shift. The connections forged through that chaotic event felt electric in the air. But just as joy began to swell in her heart, her earlier fear resurfaced, cold and biting. What would happen when this moment faded away? Before she could process her thoughts, Tommy tugged at her sleeve, pulling her back to the present. "Can we help him? Can we visit him in the hospital?" His eyes sparkled with childlike urgency. Maria smiled, kneeling with him again. "Yes, we can," she promised, heart racing with new possibilities. But as she looked back to the group of dispersing faces, she couldn't shake the lingering unease. With newfound strength, she realized this was a new path unfolding before her. What challenges awaited them, and how would she navigate them? A deeper calling stirred within her, yearning to inspire even further. But what she didn't expect was that the very man she had tried to save would turn out to be someone from her past, someone who held the key to unlocking secrets she had buried deep. The air felt different the next day. It was thick with a blend of hope and a strange sense of disorientation. As Maria walked through the corridors of the hospital, she felt the weight of the previous day's events lingering like an invisible coat clinging to her shoulders. Tommy was by her side, enthusiasm radiating from him in bright bursts. "Do you think he remembers?" Tommy asked, bouncing on his heels, his little face glowing with excitement. "I hope so," Maria replied, her heart fluttering with nerves. She wasn't just hopeful for the stranger's recovery. She was anxious about the truth of his identity. How could she have missed recognizing him? The echoes of their past were shadows on her mind, whispering secrets she wasn't ready to confront. As they entered the waiting room, a hush fell over the small crowd gathered. Familiar faces mingled with strangers, each showing signs of concern, prayer, or simple human compassion. The atmosphere felt electric, filled with the vibrant pulse of connection forged through crisis. Maria spotted the woman from the previous day seated in a corner. She received her with open arms, offering a warm embrace that solidified their alliance. I'm so glad you came, the woman said, releasing Maria, her eyes gleaming with gratitude. Your courage is contagious. I talked to a few people who witnessed what happened, and they were inspired by you. Maria felt a heat rise in her cheeks. It was a team effort. I just did what had to be done. No, you don't understand, the woman replied, leaning closer. There's a rallying happening among the staff and patients. Everyone wants to hear your story. You made us believe in possibilities. Before Maria could respond, a nurse appeared, clipboard in hand, and directed them to room 15. Maria's heart pounded. She exchanged a glance with Tommy, who simply grinned at her. Her fears washed away momentarily. They were in this together, and she would face whatever awaited them as they stepped into the room. The man lay there, eyes closed, surrounded by a quiet hum of machines. A sigh escaped Maria's lips. She took a step closer, the scent of antiseptic filling her lungs. There he was, the man she had tried to save. A piece of her past echoing in this barely lit room. He stirred, eyes fluttering open. They locked onto Maria's, and she felt a jolt of recognition that ran deeper than what memories could offer. Maria? He croaked, voice distant yet familiar. Her breath caught in her throat. Yes, it's me. What happened? He managed, confusion and pain etched into his features. You collapsed, she said softly, a tremor in her voice. But you're safe now. Tommy stepped forward, excitement sparking in those innocent eyes. Are you gonna be okay, mister? A soft smile broke across the stranger's face despite his exhaustion. Thanks to your mom and the people who came together, I'll be just fine. As he spoke, Maria noted how his words held a warmth that hovered between them. I didn't know it was you, she admitted, the truth spilling from her before she could catch it. I thought you were just a stranger. His eyes shone with understanding. Sometimes we're just one decision away from changing someone's life, he said. And in that moment she realized how profound those words were. She had made a choice, a decision to act when fear threatened to paralyze her. This tiny spark ignited something far bigger than she had ever dared to imagine. But just as she felt a wave of relief washing over her, a sharp pain radiated from within. The apprehension of unearthing all that was left unsaid weighed heavy on her heart. Uncovering the secrets of their past would mean confronting the memories she had buried for too long. With a faint smile, the man motioned for them to come closer, breaking the tension hanging in the air. Let's talk more, he said. There's so much we need to catch up on. And as Maria prepared to reveal the hidden truths of their intertwined lives, she felt the pulse of possibility in her chest. But as that solid moment grew closer, she wondered, could she truly face the shadows of their past, or would they consume her once and for all? Maria's heart raced at the man's invitation to talk. She glanced at Tommy, feeling a mix of exhilaration and dread. Here they stood at a crossroads, the past threatening to rise up like a tidal wave, and she wasn't sure if she was braced to meet it head-on. There's so much to tell. She started, but her voice trailed off. Memories danced in her mind, teasing her with glimpses of laughter and sorrow, of moments both cherished and long buried. You know me? He asked, his hand gripping the edge of the bed, trying to pull himself up into a sitting position. She bit her lip, the urge to protect him from the painful truths fighting with the urgency of honesty. You were someone very important to me, she finally said, her eyes dropping to the floor. Someone important, he echoed, piecing together his scattered thoughts. I feel like I know you, but it's like trying to remember a dream that fades away. Can you help me? Tommy shifted from one foot to the other, caught between the concern for the stranger and the curiosity of a child. Maria knelt beside him, squeezing his hand, hoping he could draw strength from her. Before that day we shared a life, she started, her eyes searching his face for any flicker of recognition. A long time ago you meant the world to me. A world, he murmured, eyes clouded. I wish I could remember. I'm just so lost. Maria's heart twisted. You were my everything once. We had dreams, plans, but life took us in different directions. And now standing here, I'm afraid of what that might mean. A silence enveloped them, thick with emotions tumbling out uncontrollably. What if he didn't want to hear the truth? What if memories came flooding back, shattering the fragile piece they had spun together? I don't want to lose you again, he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper, filled with a vulnerability that nearly brought her to tears. But I need to know what happened. Why did we drift apart? Things changed, she said, her voice trembling. I had responsibilities, a family, and you had your own battles. Tommy stepped forward, his small voice breaking the heavy tension. Did you fight dragons? Like in the movies? Both adults chuckled softly at his innocent question, a lightness breaking through the somber air. No, the man said, a smile cracking through his pain. But I did fight my own battles. I guess everyone does. He looked at Maria, his gaze deepening. And what about you? What did you fight for? She swallowed hard, the lump in her throat rising higher. I fought to hold my life together. For Tommy. The man nodded, processing her words, but the distance between them seemed to widen. Unspoken fears hung in the air around them, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for her to dive deeper into shared truths. Tommy, unperturbed by the weight of their conversation, climbed onto the edge of the bed. I think you should hug it out. When mommy gets sad, hugs help. A bittersweet smile broke through Maria's anxiety. You're right, kiddo. She turned to the man, her heart pounding. I'm here now. We can face this together. As the man took her hand in his, Maria felt a connection sparking between them once more, reminding her of what once was, what might still be. But her hopes were anchored by resignation. The shadows of the past were never distant. Can we really face what comes next? He asked, uncertainty clouding his eyes. And there, in that moment, Maria felt the weight of possibility hovering on the edge. She knew they had taken the first step toward truth. She also knew that some truths were harder to confront than others. But deep down, she sensed they would have to fight not against dragons, but against their own fears, their own histories. Would they emerge victorious? Or would the shadows win out in the end? Her heart ached with unanswerable questions as the silence settled between them again. In this fragile connection, could they uncover more than just fragmented memories, but perhaps a path forward? Maria took a deep breath, the smell of antiseptic stinging her senses. The man's hand in hers felt warm, a lifeline she hadn't realized she was desperately clinging to. Tommy's innocent gaze fixed on them, as if he held the answers to their unspoken questions. Can we really do this? She repeated softly, more to herself than to him, her heart pounding with uncertainty. Together, he insisted, squeezing her hand. His grip tightened, grounding her. But you have to tell me the truth, Maria. Every part of it. The way he said her name sent shivers down her spine. Did she really want to unlock those vaults of the past? Memories, both sweet and bitter, rushed at her like old friends turning into ghosts. "'Kay," she finally said, her voice steadier. "But it won't be easy." With a firm nod, he leaned in, encouraging. Tommy, oblivious to the emotional maelstrom, leaned closer too, eyes bright and trusting, like a tiny beacon of hope. "It was years ago," Maria began, forcing her voice to remain calm. "We were young, full of dreams. Life felt like an endless summer." She could see the flicker of something in his eyes, a fire dimmed but not extinguished. But dreams don't always translate to reality. He looked lost in thought, as though pieces of a puzzle drifted around in his mind. "What happened to us?" She swallowed hard, weighing her words. "You had a different path. You fought your demons, and I had to hold our family together. My responsibilities grew too heavy." The man's brow furrowed. "And I lost my way, didn't I?" "Yes," she said softly. "But you were never alone. I thought of you every day." I wanted to reach out, but she took a shaky breath. "Things got complicated. I didn't know how to bring up the past when it hurt so much." Tommy tilted his head, brows furrowed. "But you do now. You're talking about it." His childlike optimism pushed against the walls of Maria's heart, urging her to break free from the burden she had carried for so long. "Yeah, maybe I am," she said, wiping a tear that had escaped down her cheek. "And I need to remember, Maria," the man said, his voice firm yet gentle. "Maybe it'll lead us back to each other." A rush of emotions surged through her. The notion of turning back time, of slipping into the comfort of what once was intoxicating. However, lurking beneath that desire was fear of disappointment, fear of losing him again. "What if I can't make you remember?" she whispered, the weight of the world pressing against her chest. "Then we start a new chapter, my dear," he replied, a soft smile spreading across his lips. "One brick at a time." As Maria met his gaze, an unexpected warmth flooded her heart. Tommy's innocent belief in happy endings seeped into their uncertainty, transforming the space into something vibrant and alive. She realized that memories, even the most painful, could coexist with hope. Okay, she replied, determination shining through her uncertainty. Let us build it. At that moment the room felt smaller, the walls closing in as they stepped into the closeness they hadn't shared in years. Yet with each pulsing heartbeat, they laid bricks, small conversations, shared laughter creating a bridge across the chasm of lost time. But then the man's expression shifted, worry overtaking the moment. Maria, if I uncover what happened, will you still want to know me? Of course, she assured him, though inside, doubt gnawed at her resolve. I have to know. But deep within, a quiet fear started to grow. What if the truth was more painful than she anticipated? What could it shatter between them? Her heart raced as she faced the possibility of dark secrets that lay just beneath the surface. And in the stillness, as uncertainty reigned, she wondered, would the truth bind them closer, or tear them apart? The next step loomed large, a decision that would change everything. Would she dare to face it head-on? Maria sat at the edge of the hospital bed, the weight of the past pressing heavily on her chest. The man, Tommy's father, looked at her with a mix of hope and fear. She could almost see the wheels turning in his mind, the way he grasped for remnants of the memories they once shared. Do you really want to reopen those wounds, Maria? He asked, his voice steady yet trembling at the same time. She took a deep breath, drawing courage from the warmth of Tommy's small hand resting on her knee. I have to. If we're going to move forward, we need to face what happened. Then let us do it, he said, determination setting in his eyes. We'll take it one step at a time. As Maria began recounting the memories, she felt the truth begin to spill forth, a story of love, dreams, and ultimately loss. Remember that summer when we talked about everything? Those late nights on the porch dreaming about our future? A flicker of recognition flashed across his face. I do remember, he said, his voice tinged with nostalgia. We thought we'd conquer the world together. But life had other plans. I was left holding pieces of things I didn't know how to fix, she continued, her voice thick with emotion. You had your battles, and I didn't know how to reach you across the distance that grew between us. And I thought you'd moved on without me, he confessed, the sadness creeping back into his eyes. I drifted, and so did our dreams, didn't they? Maria and Tommy exchanged glances, a silent agreement passing between them. But here we are, she said quietly, and I want us to build something new. A better future. He nodded slowly, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between them. But beneath that weight, a spark of possibility ignited. How do we start? We start by being honest with ourselves, she replied, her voice steadying. And we involve Tommy in our journey. He needs to know where he came from, who we are. Tommy looked up at them, his eyes wide with wonder, unaware of the magnitude of their conversation. You mean I get to see you both as a team? His excitement was palpable, the innocence of childhood shining through. Yes, buddy, she smiled through the tears that brimmed in her eyes. We're all in this together now. As the sun began to set outside the hospital window, a soft golden light flooded the room, wrapping around them with a gentle embrace. It was as if the universe itself was acknowledging their steps toward healing. They shared laughs, reflecting on happy memories, and slowly brought the painful ones into the light. The bonds of their past were remade right before their eyes, and what had once felt unattainable began to emerge as tangible, a chance for reconciliation, understanding, and rebuilding. Hours passed, filled with heartfelt stories and laughter rising in the small room. Then a knock disrupted their gathered peace. A nurse appeared, holding a small bouquet of flowers. These are for you, she said with a kind smile, directed at the man on the bed. From your neighbors. They heard about what happened. And as the man accepted the flowers, it was a reminder of how far the past could stretch, connecting lives more deeply than they realized. In that moment, amid the laughter and warmth, Maria felt the doubts that had clung to her begin to fade. Tommy, she smiled, do you think we can continue to build our story together? Yes. He cheered, and the enthusiasm sparked an electric joy between them. It was a simple agreement but felt monumental. Days turned into weeks, and together, they ventured beyond the hospital walls, charting a future alive with hope. Maria took every opportunity to share their story with the community, reminding them of the transformative power of understanding, empathy, and connection. The threads woven through their struggles found vibrant colors in the laughter and support of their neighbors. Seeing them together, father and son, brought both joy and bittersweet sorrow, but every moment felt like redemption. Maria learned to embrace the powerful truth that she was not just a maid, but a warrior, a mother who fought for love and connection. Finally, one sunny afternoon, as they walked hand in hand through the park, she turned to the man and said, "This is what I've always dreamed of us as a family. Together." He squeezed her hand. Their past melted into the warmth of the present. "Together," he echoed, his voice steady with conviction, and as they watched Tommy run ahead, laughter floating through the air, Maria felt the burden of the past lift. In this new beginning they had built a life rich with love, hope and resilience. Together they would navigate whatever challenges awaited them. They had each other, the bonds of family strong as ever, and the past now a springboard leading them forward into the light of a brand new day. "Now let us make sure to tell our new friends about our journey," she said with a twinkle in her eyes. They moved deeper into the park. Laughter, love, and the promise of a brighter future painted their hearts with joy. It was a new chapter, and together, they were ready to embrace every moment. Now is the moment you must act. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire and uplift you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help this community grow. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this beautiful ending, and let us connect over these amazing journeys. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.